Hello. At the time of this recording, many folks in America and around the world are undergoing some difficult times due to the coronavirus in 2019. And I'm reminded again that we as individuals and as a nation need a strong and functioning mind. How do we get through tough times? If I'm going to be honest, I think we've had it easy, especially here in America. People in the past had lives that were much more difficult, such as those that went through the World War II generation, or the Great Depression, or the American Civil War. How did they cope? This is probably the most serious crisis I've seen in my lifetime, but people in the past got through, I think, things that were much worse. I think they cope by having strong minds, strong bodies, and strong souls. And this leads then to a good question. Why should we study mathematics? A question that students ask often is, when am I ever going to use this in my job? Or when am I ever going to use this in real life? And sometimes they ask that honestly, but oftentimes it's just a way to kind of get out of maybe doing what's being asked of them. Because if a teacher can't give a reason why something should be learned, then why should a student learn it? And the modern view says that education is only necessary for job skills or for vocational training. But how's the student ever to know what they're going to use in their job in the future? I think there's another reason why folks should learn, and that is not for vocation, but that's for formation. So a student will ask me in class, Mr. Marsh, when am I ever going to use the quadratic formula in my job or in real life? And I will gladly say, never. And that's not why you should learn it. So why should we study mathematics then if we're never going to use it in our job? Well, do students ask that question in Shakespeare class, like you're reading Romeo and Juliet? Did the student ever raise their hands and say, well, you know, when am I going to use this in my job? I'm never going to be a future poet or something like that. And we understand that there's something different, maybe perhaps why people study Shakespeare when they're not going to be playwrights. And something else, oftentimes we expect things to come to us easy without struggle or discomfort. And when we do have discomfort in whatever we're doing, we tend to look for ways to escape. So let me show you a picture here. I shamelessly stole this picture off the internet, and if you've been in my classroom, you've seen it before. So I added the text there. It says, if mathematics class were held in the gym instead, and then the guy doing the kettlebell push-up says, but coach, when am I ever going to use this in real life? And I picked this picture because of the man's face here. If we zoom in very, very tight here, this is the face of severe discomfort. He is not happy. Like the veins are popping out of his head. He is very, shall I even say, miserable. Why is he doing this? Kettlebell push-ups are like even harder than normal push-ups. And then we've got this guy over here who's yelling at him. And I'm sure he's not saying things like, you're so slow or you're so weak or something like that. He's saying something encouraging. And so why is this guy doing this? Where's his safe space? Hey, look at how big this other guy's muscles are, like compared to the guy doing the kettlebell push-ups. Like, he must be really lucky. When is he ever going to use kettlebell push-ups in his job? And the students will say something like, oh, he's a pro football player and he's training. I'm like, no, he's not. He's an accountant. Why do accountants go to the gym and do kettlebell push-ups? And quickly students realize, well, you know, when you go to the gym and do kettlebell push-ups, what you're really getting is you're getting strength, okay? And a strong body, in a sense, is its own reward. Even if you're never going to do a kettlebell push-up as part of your job, if you have a strong body, you can do a lot of things that you're not even aware of. You've got a lot of resilience. You've got a lot of reserve that you can use surprisingly when you least expect it. Oh, I need to like lift this thing, and I wasn't planning on lifting anything today, but here I go. I got a strong body. I can do it. Okay, so strength of body is its own reward. What about strength of mind? One of my favorite authors is Blaise Pascal. And in his book, Pensées, which is a collection of his thoughts, and I think it needs like a little hash mark there over the E. He says, how is it that a lame man does not annoy us, but a lame mind does? He says, well, because a lame man recognizes that we are walking uprightly, while a lame mind says that it is we who are limping. He says, we're quite certain that we are not limping, but we are not so sure we're making the right choice. So I understand this to mean there's nobody who's paralyzed, who can't walk, that looks around at other people walking and says, oh no, you have a problem. It's very apparent that the people who have lame legs, there's something wrong with them. That we understand that that's a defect somehow. But a person who's not thinking rightly might tell somebody else, no, you're the one who's mistaken, and yet if we're not mistaken, we doubt. Well, really, am I the one that's thinking correctly about that? Right? He says we're quite certain that we are not limping physically, but we're not so sure that we're making the right choice mentally. There's this area of doubt. So physical weakness or strength is easy to identify, but mental weakness or strength is not so easy. How do we build strength of mind? I'm going to propose something to you. Mathematics builds strength of mind, and that's why it's worthy for everybody to study. Another quote from Pascal in his book On the Geometrical Mind, or sometimes it's translated On Geometrical Demonstration or On Geometrical Spirit. It's his little essay on why everybody should study geometry. He says this. He says, we all know that opinions are admitted into the soul through two entrances, which are its two chief powers, understanding and the will. He says the more natural entrance is understanding, for we should never agree to anything but demonstrated truths. But the more usual entrance, although it's against nature, is the will. For all men whatsoever are almost always led into belief, not because a thing is proved, but because it is pleasing. This way is low, unworthy, and foreign to our nature. Therefore, everybody disavows it. Each of us professes to give his belief and even his love only where he knows it's deserved. Most people believe what they believe, myself included. Most people believe what they believe because they want it to be true, not because it's actually been demonstrated or proven to actually be true. I think years ago we would call this wishful thinking, right? But this wishful thinking is a false reason. And so we invent supposedly logical reasons or proofs to convince others and maybe even to convince ourselves. Nobody ever says, oh yeah, the reason I believe that is just because I like it if that were the truth. I like it if it were that way. That's what I want to be true. Nobody ever says that. We all realize that that's false. So we invent reasons. We kind of manufacture things. We kind of grasp at some things that might give the appearance that it's logical, but really it's not. It's just what we want to be true. Mathematics teaches us not to accept anything as true until it's been demonstrated by even a proof, right? Remember in geometry, you can't just say that's how it looks to me. You have to give the proof for it. Is that a right angle? Well, it looks like it. That's not allowed. You have to give the proof, right? So mathematics teaches us not to accept something as true until it's been demonstrated, shown through deductive reasoning or logic to actually be true. So mathematics is not how it looks to me, not what I got accidentally, not what it might be, but about certainty. Mathematics trains the mind to only accept things as true that are certain. Okay? And that means mathematics is the process, not the answer. Students will say to me, well, like, oh, but did I get the answer right? And I'm like, well, I'm really less interested in that than I am in the process, because mathematics is the process. Just like in logic, it's the argument that's most important, not the conclusion. Someone can have a right conclusion, but a terrible argument, and that means the argument's invalid. Yeah, your conclusion's correct, but your reasoning is very, very bad. So mathematics is the process, and you can have the correct conclusion, but very bad reasoning. Mathematics teaches the mind to process and to think clearly, and that's why it's worthy for people to study. Okay. Now, there's three classical subjects going back even to the ancient Greeks, and they were mathematics, gymnastics, and music. Mathematics taught the harmony of the mind. Gymnastics taught the harmony of the body. And music taught the harmony of the soul. And by music, they meant more than just sound. They meant all the things that went into the fine arts, painting, sculpture, dance, you name it, all the things that had the element of beauty in them. So Strength of mind, yeah, everybody needs it. So everybody then should study mathematics, even if you don't think you're ever going to use it in your job. But let's be honest, how do you really know? Okay, mathematics is worthy to study because it produces strength of mind. We should also study other disciplines to strengthen our bodies and our souls. So I hope you have a good day, and let's work on strengthening the whole of our person, body, mind, and soul. Bye-bye.